Hi, I'm Isle McElroy,
And I'm Isle McElroy.
and I'm the author of The Atmospherians
And People Collide.
and the forthcoming Satellite. And we are here to answer your questions.
So, I've noticed something. The concept of body swaps and doppelgangers, it comes up a lot in our work. What's that about?
Well, a lot of my work has always been really embodied, and I know we've thought a lot about it when we've been at the page and when we've been thinking about what we want to work on. Body swapping was really important for me at a time when I was thinking about coming out and when I was thinking about traditional trans narratives and how to subvert some of those narratives, how to play around with some of those ideas. It was also important for me to think about intimacy. And I think both body swaps and doppelgangers say a lot about intimacy. Both of them, in the body swap, it's sort of entering another person's body. We've talked about it all the time, especially like with ourselves and what we've been doing in each other's bodies. And I think when we are moving from the body swap to the doppelganger, it's been a really fascinating move from the insertion or like appropriation of the body swap and then something more malevolent in the doppelganger. I think traditionally the doppelganger has a much more insidious undertone than the body swap, which is largely comic and the stuff of a Disney Channel movie. But for my purposes, the doppelganger I think is a really insidious exploration of what happens when we find that we might not be as unique as we believe we are.
All right, let's spill. What can we tell the viewers about the new novel?
We have been working on it pretty hard. It is going to come out in spring 2027, and we're super excited for that. We're super excited for it to be out. We're thinking about covers right now. But as for the book, it's a really personal story for both of us. It's about our grandfather and our grandmother, or loosely based on our grandparents. And it tells the story of a couple who a husband asked for a divorce in the early 90s, and the wife she says no, she does not want to get a divorce, and then the book fast forwards 2 years into the future, and she is her husband's sole caretaker after he's been injured on a workplace accident, and he has been paralyzed from the neck down. However, she's watching TV one day, and what she discovers is an alternate version of her life if she had agreed to a divorce with her husband that is playing on a particular channel. And she becomes increasingly obsessed with it. And I think what really drew us to this story was trying to understand the sacrifices that our grandmother made. That story originally, without the doppelgangers, as far as we know, is pretty similar to my grandparents' life. And I've always been very curious. We grew up with our grandmother and our grandfather lived next door to us. And we've always been really curious about what it took for her to be able to give that kind of sacrifice to another person for the entirety of her life. She actually ended up dying before our grandfather did. So it's a book that's really about intimacy and about care and about regret and the sort of sliding doors moments of other lives that we could have been living.
So, speaking of intimacy, what's the secret to writing a good sex scene?
We both know the answer is details. We have thought a lot about this. It's really important to stay tactile when writing a sex scene. Most people, when we think about a bad sex scene, in my mind at least, the problem with a bad sex scene is that it ends up being a little bit too generic, that there isn't enough. We can't see where the bodies are moving or what's happening. They're deeply emotionally driven rather than just grounded in the physical reality of what exactly is happening. So for my money, and a lot of authors I really respect, and I know that you respect them as well, Garth Greenwell in particular is someone who has written a lot about the importance of details in sex writing. And he is someone who we both admire for that and someone who I've sort of looked to as guidance for how to write a sex scene. I think you're the one who first told me about his work.
So we've been teaching for a while, and what do we find most exciting about working with students and aspiring writers?
Well, I think for both of us, I'm not sure if it's the same for you, But for me, at least, what I find really beneficial about it is that I get to help writers see what they might not be able to see for themselves. I think the workshop model is often derided as moving writers towards a very generic middle ground. But I think both of us, when we've been teaching, we've tried very hard to help writers see what is unique about their writing in particular. And that the goal for both of us in the room, either when you're teaching or when I'm teaching, is to help them see what only they can write. And that is really special for me, to see what are the tropes that a young writer or aspiring writer might be working on, and how they're being a little bit cliched or borrowing other ideas, and then seeing the things that are like unequivocally unique about their work. That is really exciting. To me, we both talked about this together, and that sense of discovery and helping a writer see what they can do and only what they can do, that's really what gets us going when it comes to teaching. Well, we've been in Vegas for about 9 months now. What's that been like for us?
Vegas has been a real discovery. A lot of things I didn't anticipate have been happening in Vegas. I've loved it far more than I expected. I love living downtown. I love living in the arts district. I've met so many incredible people here, which has been truly amazing, and I feel like so many friends I'm going to have for the rest of my life. I got to work on our new book, Satellite. That was a huge part of it, and we actually just started a new book as well. So it's been really wonderful to be here. And it's not what I expected at all, but way more livelier and inviting, and I think just a very cool and strange and confident city.
This is an important one. What's the best cocktail in Vegas?
Oh, there are so many to choose from. I mean, first off, there was a great cocktail at the upstairs bar at Esther's. Unfortunately, it was taken off the menu. That was called the Airplane Over the Sea. It was a martini that was very velvety, one of my favorites. Otherwise, I would say the A la Louisiane at Nocturno is one of my favorites. I've also been recently getting a drink there called a Quill, which is not on the menu, but it's a classic cocktail that's sort of like a Negroni with a absinthe rinse in it as well. So that one I've been getting at Nocturno. It's been excellent every time.
So what is the best, I know there's been a lot, but what is the best or maybe the strangest interaction that we've had with a stranger in Vegas?
Oh, well, I think maybe my favorite interaction was early on in Las Vegas. I wound up talking to a woman I met at the upstairs bar at Esther's, and then she introduced me to a friend of hers who was just getting back from doing a riverboat cruise line gig. And he told me that, as he put it, if I remember this right, he was like, for a lot of our clientele, it's their last cruise, because a lot of very older people on the cruise. And then he pauses, he's like, and some people even die on our cruise, either just from old age or falling down. And I'm like, whoa, what do you do with the bodies? He's like, oh, don't worry, there are plenty of places to stop. It's not like the ocean, which has continued to haunt me, the way that, and I was just like, oh, of course, it's not like the ocean, where I'm assuming there are many former cruise line guests who are now bobbing around out there with the whales.
So, do you think our car is really going to make it back to New York?
Our car is going to do what it needs to do. And I do not want to put any more pressure on it than it needs. I just recently brought it to the dealership to get a nice tune-up for it, so it's ready to go. So I have faith, but I also will be avoiding steep hills. I'm really looking forward to being back in New York, to see all my friends again, to see my people again. But excited to get back to my apartment. I've really missed it. I've had subletter, so even when I visited New York, I wasn't able to see it. I miss biking. I don't really bike in Vegas. It seems a bit more dangerous here, so I really miss biking around, and like summer in the city is so perfect. So I'm really excited for that. And then I'm going to be at the Orion Writers Festival, the Writers Conference in upstate New York at the end of June, and I think registrations are still open for that. So if you'd like to come work with me, I would love to see you. Otherwise, that's about it for me.
So which one of you is the evil Isle McElroy?
I am.